This is where everything in the videos I've shown you so far comes together. Now, if you intended to do a charcoal drawing of your idea, you want to be able to control the values, how dark or light those charcoal tones would be. If you were painting your idea, you'd want to be able to choose the color values that work well together and make your work exciting to look at. It's important to remember, though, that exciting art depends on the things you do before you ever apply tone or color. And those things involve the 5 core elements of a successful art. Did you create an interesting design? Did you think about how to use edges to make your work more interesting? Did you plan how to use dark and light values in an interesting way? Have you thought about what color scheme you will use? Did you draw your subject correctly? Now, I'm sure that all sounded pretty complicated to you, and it would be if you had to do all of those things at the same time. And that is exactly what happens when you just jump into painting without doing any pre-planning. The much better way, certainly the more consistently successful way, is to simplify this process and go through it one little step at a time. That way, the process becomes easier, your imagination comes into play, and that grows your creativity. So let's do a sample project using these sheep, and I'll run through the process of getting the 5 core elements of successful art all working together to produce interesting art. Here's the design sketch I created for this painting. Now, in playing with different sketches and designs, I found that I really liked the diagonal composition that was created with the sheep and the barn. As part of the design process, I began to imagine where I could create hard edges for emphasis and where I should create soft edges and where I could eliminate edges completely, like in some of the shadow areas on the sheep. At this stage, I also want to create a balanced arrangement of dark values and light values. For instance, in the course of putting in tones and adjusting them and taking them out again, I found I liked the light areas on the sheep and how they flowed together into the light roof on the barn. In order to balance the dark value of the barn, I felt I needed dark values over here. I imagined those values not really as defined trees, but just like tree shapes, like in the background of this painting. I only suggested enough information in the background that your imagination will tell you what those colors and shapes are. And the idea for doing that was photographs we've all seen, where the background is out of focus. Okay, I've got my design figured out. That doesn't mean I can't change it a bit as I paint, but it does mean that I'm starting the painting confident of what I want to do. After drawing my design on watercolor paper, it's time to figure out my color scheme. Now, a helpful decision to make is, do I want the painting as a whole to be predominantly warm, or cool, or neutral in tone? Now, in this painting, for instance, I decided to have cool colors predominate and use warm colors as accents. Choosing an overall tone helps you choose the colors you will use, and it makes the painting feel more complete. For my sheep painting, I decided to use less intense colors than I normally do, just to show how important the values of those colors become. I also decided I would use somewhat cooler colors for most of the art and use warmer ones in the sheep and the barn just to accentuate the diagonal composition and to make those elements stand out more. Now you can see I've pretty much put the dark and light values where I had them in the design. I've created interesting edges. I've used some hard edges, like on the sheep and the barn, to call attention to them. And I've used soft edges on less important things. And I've used lost and found edges to make some areas more interesting. Now the final painting came out well because I simplified the process by making all these important little decisions before I started to paint. Now I know I haven't been able to show you every little step in these short videos. I purposely kept them short because people kept telling me, keep your videos short. People don't want to watch long videos. So I'm pretty sure that if we sat down and talked one-on-one, you would probably have questions about this whole process of going from idea to successful art and how to do that in your work. Well, what if you could sit comfortably at home while I showed you exactly how to do whatever you needed to know? And what if you could immediately ask me questions about anything I showed you? Do you think that might be pretty useful? Well, here's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to do a series of 4 webinars called Simple Steps, Big Results. In each webinar, I will show you what I've learned in 47 years of art about how to use these core elements of successful art in simplified little step by little step way that you've seen me use in these videos. It's just that in the webinars, I'll have time to show you each of these little steps and explain how to make the right choices. And in addition, you help determine part of the content of each webinar. A week before each webinar, I'd like every participant to fill out a short survey telling me their top 2 questions about that subject. During each webinar, you can also ask more questions, like maybe you aren't quite clear about how lost and found edges work, or when you should actually use them. Whatever your questions are, I'll do my best to answer them as they come up. If I can't adequately answer your question right then, your question will be carried over to the next webinar where I will clearly explain what you want to know. Each and every question gets answered. Each webinar will also be recorded, and that will be my special bonus for you when you join me on this webinar series. If you sign up between now and Wednesday, July 8th, I will send you the complete set of recordings of all the webinars, either on DVDs or as downloads. By not waiting to sign up, you ensure that you will not only get the great live content at each webinar, you'll end up having one heck of a good home study art course. Now, if you decide to sign up between July 8th and July 11th, you won't get the complete recordings, but you will still get one webinar recording of your choice. Now, you may be thinking, oh man, he's going to want a lot of money for this. And in truth, I think I should be charging $300 for these series of webinars. But they aren't going to cost even close to $300 because I have to admit to you, I've got an ulterior motive in offering these 4 webinars. I'm betting that by seeing what questions people have, what people are struggling with right now, I'll be able to get good ideas for programs I can develop to help other beginning artists that have those same questions, those same struggles. And I'm hoping those insights will be valuable enough that I'm willing to offer this webinar series for a very special price of only $65. So I think it's a win-win situation for both of us. I show you the best simple steps to take in your art to get the big results that I hope you're striving for, and I hope you can help me achieve big results in a different way. Now, if you sign up for Simple Steps, Big Results by July 8th, you'll get the complete recordings of all the webinars, and you'll have a hugely useful home study course. So if that sounds like a fair deal to you, I invite you to click the button below this video to be reminded of the complete details of this offer and sign up for this webinar series. Because I have to tell you, I have no plans to ever do this again. And before you leave this page, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this page and leave me a few comments about how you like this video series. So for now, I'll just say hasta luego, until later, and I look forward to answering all your questions during the Simple Steps Big Results webinars.